Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're joined now by Mr. Joshua Mukan, who is the chairman, William Duncan Hydro, a holding company. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Well, this is a big, it's a big one. Everybody wants to see a solution to the electricity challenge we have in this country. You are in this field. What is the challenge? Why don't we have uninterrupted power supply, from your perspective?
Well, the problem of power supply has been there for quite a while now. Governments have come in, done their own part, and each government is contributing its own. The truth is that successively there is improvement, but the improvement is not fast enough to cope with the demand. And Nigerians do not see much of the improvement that is being done as it is now.
Do we blame the distribution companies?
Not really, because if the distribution companies can only distribute what has been transmitted, and transmission companies can only transmit what has been generated. And if we don't get the basic generation adequately covered, then there's nothing to transmit.
What about the ones who are generating? Are we sufficiently distributing and transmitting them?
Well, I guess based on my understanding, a lot has been done in the transmission subsector of the power grid. But as you rightly know, the issue of gas availability has been a consistent problem. So there's no sufficient power generation. And that was why Mr. President said, listen, I'm looking forward to generating 10,000 megawatts at this time frame. So we must get the power generation right. If we don't get that one right, then there's nothing to transmit.
Mr. Mukan, let me take you back a bit where you said we need to get the gas problem, gas supply. If we have, let's just say the gas companies decide, okay, enough of this blame game. We'll give them all the gas they need. Do you think there's enough generation can be made? And then when it's generated, do we have the infrastructure to transmit?
Even within the power generation subsector, there are issues. Like I said here a year ago, that there is a lot of what bankers call tenor mismatching in even the power generation itself. I don't see any wisdom in having a gas generating company in Kaduna. I don't see any wisdom in having it in Geregu or in somewhere in Omotosho, is it Omoto, or Oloro Shogbo. These gas generating plants should be somewhere in Escravos, should be somewhere in Warri, where they are close to the production areas.
But now that we have
we don't have, now that is where the problem is.
So what should we do?
Because the infrastructure leading to these power generation plants are not there. And that's why people had been clamoring for this petroleum industry bill to be passed, so that investors can come and invest in these infrastructures. But we're not there yet. And that is why I have always advocated for power generation through hydro. Because hydro, we know it. Kainji Dam, let me be honest, some of us were very young when Kainji Dam was set up. And it is still running. If you go to Plateau State, a company that the first hydro generating plant was built in 1919. It is still running. Kura Falls was built in 1929. It is still running. Now, all the thermal plants, believe me, were done probably 10, 15, 20 years, and they are not running. So we must look at hydro very well again. And I am suggesting, if I were this government, the monies that we've collected from the federal, people who have looted the treasury of the nation, and I would invest all that money in hydroelectric power.
We will come to that.
No, it's a suggestion.
No problem.
I'm waiting for you.
Get a question in. Mark,
Well, it's definitely good to see you, Mr. Mukan.
Nice seeing you,
you know, you took the words right out of my mouth in terms of your advocacy for hydro. You've always been big on, government looking at hydro. I was just about to ask you, has government shown any interest, this administration, for instance, shown any interest in hydro? If they have, what exactly are the steps that they've taken?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I was made to, or I read it in the newspapers that some facilities were secured from China to start Mambila Plateau, Zungeru, and I'm even advocating if they could include my own hydro plant in those facilities as well. The Kwal Falls, the 35 megawatts in Kwal Falls in Plateau State. Now, I don't know what has been done, but to the best of my knowledge, I have not seen caterpillars and earth movers yet on site. But the government may have plans on drawing board. I don't really know. So there's a little, in my mind, there's a little bit of frustration.
What are the challenges currently facing those who produce hydropower?
what are the challenges?
Most of the hydropowers are built and run by the federal government. To the best of my knowledge, my hydropower is one of the, indeed the first IPP done by an individual, which is like a test case. So the problems that are being run or faced by hydro plants are the same problem that everything that is run by the government or the federal government is facing now. Funding, management. But I know that Kainji and Shiroro, I think they've been privatized. I'm not too sure of Kainji. Yes, I know that I understand that they've been privatized. Maybe they are going through refurbishments now and dredging because they are now owned by companies. So I wouldn't know what is happening there.
So at the moment, it does appear as though the hydro is what is getting us out of jail at the moment. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. I mean, it's the only large capacity and stable power generation system that I know now. Let me take you back. If coal is good, but you have to mine the coal. So there's also running cost. There is also operational cost. But in hydro, just make sure that you build the dam, which is quite expensive. Let me not kid about that, which is comparable to nuclear power generation. Hydro is compared with nuclear power generation. But once you've done it, then you can go and sleep and put it on autopilot. And that is why it lasts minimum of 100 years and maximum of 150 years.
You talk about government giving